What up, bitches? Jamie-Leigh Bissett, offbeatphotographer.com. Today, sitting next to me, to my left, my better half, my bearded half, my Bubba, Stephen Michael Bissett. How are you today?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm not bad. Only okay?
Only okay. Do you always talk like this when you interview people?
It's my William Shatner voice.
It's apparent.
Hey, I need to...
Let me tell you about Zelco soap. Have you needed to get your whites whiter?
I don't want to hear it, mister.
Use Zelco.
I don't want to hear it anytime you talk to one of your coworkers. Your voice goes up about 3 octaves high. You're like, hey, how you doing? My name is Dave. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
That's because I'm not talking about the virtues of Zelco.
Oh, Steve, I understand that your fat eyelids are preventing you from being of the right mind right now.
No, I do have fat eyelids, though. Apparently, they're a real problem in photography lately.
Open your eyes.
They are, in fact, open. They're just fat.
Well, here's the thing.
Or big boned.
As a photographer, it's probably one of the most frustrating things in the world to have somebody with beautiful eyes, i.e. you, i.e. Joseph Benjamin and Cassandra Charlotte's, and yet...
That's Casey's middle name.
I think so. Oh man, now you're going to make me second guess.
No, she was.
It's Triple C.
She was Triple C.
Triple C.
Triple C. No,
Casey,
that's right.
we love you. Yes. So anyway...
She doesn't have squinty eyes. Ben does.
Ben definitely does.
Yeah.
And the boys do as well. And they all have beautiful eyes, but you can never see them because they either are frowning and you can see them.
All the better to look shifty-eyed with.
So anyway, you're the same way. You have beautiful eyes, but yet nobody can ever see them because
Mine are fat.
They're fat.
They're not
They're
squinty.
weighing down.
They're not squinty.
Well, you have
Heavy with the weight of the world.
and you have the cheek of the chub of the cheek pushing up,
That's
and
correct.
then the fat eyelids pushing down.
I do.
So yeah,
I'm screwed.
Yeah, you really are.
Yep.
So I want to talk to
Makes
you.
awesome sun blossoms though, like off of lights when it's dark.
Sun blossoms.
Like light. What do they call them? Sunbursts.
Okay.
So like if you're, the bursts you get off of like a headlight from a car.
Right.
When it's dark, it's like trippy.
And your fat eyelids promote this trippiness?
Yeah, because when the eyelashes diffuse the light, and so it helps make it more so.
Gotcha. So it creates a sort of...
Like a starburst effect.
Okay. That's a very interesting tidbit that I never knew about you. 15 years, and who knew? I'm learning something new about you every day.
Zelco.
I hate you. And yet I love you. All right, so here's the thing. We've been together now 15 and a half years, which is crazy to think how old I am, that I met you after college and not even like in high school or something. But I've been with you 15 and a half years.
15 years?
2003. 2018 was 15. Now we're in 2019.
No, that's right.
About 15 and a half.
Yeah.
Regardless. So... tell me a little bit about you before I met you, because I could probably tell your story after that, although you probably wouldn't like that version. But tell me a little bit about...
It's probably the same.
Tell me a little bit about where you come from and what your background is.
I'm the last survivor of a planet known as Krypton. Tragic story.
And now you can't think of the lie because your fat eyelids are weighing you down.
They give me away. I grew up a poor black child.
Okay,
Sorry,
Steve Martin.
I was gonna say that's too easy.
Yeah.
No, I grew up in Edgewater, Maryland. It's a little townish area south of Annapolis, Maryland. I wasn't born there. I was born in Silver Spring. But we moved there when I was like 2 or 3, I guess.
Do you have any recollections of before Arundel Road in Edgewater?
Living in the apartments now.
No? Okay.
No. I mean, I've seen pictures, but I don't.
Kind of like how Julia will not remember our house in Dover.
I don't even have like a vague anything.
Yeah.
There's like not even a fuzzy memory.
Right. Here comes the pepper dog.
Pepper dog.
Pepper dog wants to be interviewed too.
Come lay down. That's what that was, Julia. I heard.
And so you grew up in Edgewater from the time you were 3,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, for all intent and purpose, I mean that's where I was born and raised. I wasn't born there, but it might as well be.
You were raised
I don't
there.
remember anything else.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And so you guys moved, when you moved to Edgewater, it was always Arundel Road, right? It was always in Woodland Beach.
What do you mean?
Meaning you didn't move to another place in Edgewater and then
no.
move.
No.
Right.
Mm-mm.
So that house your dad is living in, that's been in your family for 38...
Since 1982.
Right.
Or whatever.
Right.
1981.
Crazy. How does that feel to, like, always go back to the same place for almost 40 years?
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
imagine.
on some end, you don't think about it.
Right.
Excuse me. But other times, you're like, there's a weird kind of comfort in it, right? It's home.
Yeah.
You know, you can go home. Even when it's not home, it's still home. To a point. I guess any place that you associate with, I think, especially growing up, becomes home. Nan's house was a home for me.
Right.
Grandma and Granddad's was a home for me. I mean, even the Schwallenberg house was a home for me. Different dynamic,
Right.
but it was a home. So it was familiar, it was comfortable, it was all those things.
Right.
So to go home, even though it's different, it's still home.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Does it still feel like home? I mean, before we moved in and lived with your mom, did her version of Woodland Beach, or because it was a different house, it didn't quite feel the same as, for instance, going back to your dad's?
Yeah, but it would have been no different, like, when we first moved to Delaware. Like, that was foreign. It became home.
It became home.
You know, moving out into the Crownsville house with Ben, it became home.
Right.
You have that, whatever that period of time is, where you adapt or you adjust or, you know, whatever that acclimation period is, until you hit that certain point, and then you don't even realize it. You're like, oh, I'm home.
You're home.
I know how to walk through this room in the pitch black dark without breaking my toe.
Right.
You know, that I know what that sound is.
Right.
You know, at 3 a.m.
Right.
So yeah, like Mom's house, the Chesapeake Road is drive, whatever. That's home now too.
Right. Well, because we did, in fact, live there.
Well,
at some
yeah,
point.
but even if we didn't live there, over time, it still would have become home.
Right.
You know, even like your mom's house is home to me.
Yeah.
You know, because we go there so much, and
Right.
she's been there long enough now that it's comfortable.
Right. Yeah. Just like my Aunt Rose, she didn't move into that house until I was
Rose's
19.
house is like that. Yeah, absolutely.
She had 2. I grew up in her first house from 0 to 19. Well, approximately 0, probably older. And then from 20 to now, it's been the other house. Right. Yeah. So you lived in Edgewater your whole life. Obviously. Well, I'm sorry, your whole childhood.
Yeah, until 20.
And you went to South River High School.
Yeah.
Yep. Tell me a little bit about what you did in high school. What were some of your favorite activities and things that kind of identified or defined you as a high school
Teenage
student?
angst? Is that an activity?
I mean, yeah, that's kind of like a goes without saying sort of thing with everybody.
Yeah, that's
But I mean,
true.
like, what occupied your time? I know you played lacrosse for a little while.
I played lacrosse from middle school up until I played through my sophomore year. But I got my thumb broken in practice in my sophomore year, so that ate up a good chunk of that season because you couldn't, and it broke pretty good.
Yeah. How long were you in a cast for?
Longer than I thought I would be. Because they took it off, and then they x-rayed it again. They literally just took the cast, the 2 pieces, and stuck them back together and put duct tape. My coaches thought I was bullshitting when I came back to practice.
Right.
They're like, it's taped on. I'm like, I know.
Right.
He said like I needed another week or 2 weeks or something because the bone, it came apart and it twisted a little bit. Not like terribly, but the way it healed,
Right.
it's a little bit shorter because it broke back here.
Right.
The microphone doesn't sleep when the monitor does it?
I hope not. But thanks for interrupting the interview.
Yeah, sorry. No, okay.
let
So
me know that happened.
I just thought that was weird.
That is kind of interesting. So you broke your thumb sophomore year.
And then somehow in the realm of that was either Kinley had gotten involved in the theater, and certainly by then, if not before. And then kind of through the periphery of people, I started meeting folks that were more involved in it. So like...
More involved in theater? Did you say
theater.
that?
Yeah, in theater.
And Kinley is your next door neighbor, best friend growing
Kinley
up.
is my common-law sister.
Yes.
Who lived next door. She moved in before freshman year of high school.
Right.
But she had already kind of been involved. Even though we had like similar friends, there's the clique, right? So there was already the kids that were in theater.
Right.
And while I associated with some of them, I was friends with some of them, that wasn't where I was. I was with the lacrosse guys, but also kind of with some of like the music guys or the stoner guys or both.
You did cross country too, right?
I did do cross country.
Yeah. For freshman and sophomore year as well?
Freshman and sophomore year.
Okay.
Which I liked. I did not like wearing ridiculously short shorts.
I would have paid money.
Oh my god, I hated it.
Those on you.
I hated it. And a fucking like mesh tank top. Like my body shape, not the guy to be dressed like that. Just not. Even when I was, 15, 16,
right.
High school, and I'd lost some of my middle school chub. Mm-hmm. I still
right.
No.
Right.
No.
Well, had you, and that's a good question. Let me go back a minute. So, when did you start playing music?
Early middle school.
Okay. And was it always the drums for you?
No. I played the saxophone in third grade. For like a year. Maybe I played for 2. And I think before that, I had made an attempt at the guitar, which I didn't put any effort into whatsoever.
Right.
And I think I'd had like a smaller keyboard like that when I was probably...
Casio or something?
It was some other thing.
Oh, okay.
It was like an organ.
Okay.
Whatever it was, like 24 keys or something.
Yeah.
Probably at like Julia's age now, maybe younger. Maybe like 7 or 8. And that I kind of noodled with, but the saxophone kind of stuck for a little bit. But then I remember... we did the church that we went to when I was a kid. They would have a talent show.
Right.
And so the year that Dad and I were the Blues Brothers, there was a kid who was younger than me that came out and he set up this drum set. And he did a drum solo in like 10 minutes. And I can remember standing kind of backstage, right? Like they had like the partitions up and that made the stage.
About how old are you?
Well, if it was early middle school,
11, 12?
10, 11,
okay.
You figure I was 12 or 13 freshman year. 13?
No, you were like 14.
No, but see, I'm late, remember? So I graduated...
13 is 8th grade.
I graduated at 17.
So did I.
Okay.
8th grade is 13,
so
and then 14-ish is freshman.
Okay, yeah, so 13. But it was probably 6th grade.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
11, 12.
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. It could have been younger, but that sounds right. And I watched this kid play the drums. And I was like, holy shit. Like, that was awesome. Like, he had a double pace and all that stuff. And I was like, that's, like, before then, like, never, I don't know if it ever would have really crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, I want a drum set.
Wait a minute, but your dad drums, so that never crossed into your, like, he obviously
I don't even know if I knew.
You didn't even
that
know.
he played the drums.
Sure. Okay.
I'm sure I did, because Dad would have said something.
Yeah.
But, you don't put 2 and 2 together.
Right.
Oh, Dad played the drums. Oh, great.
Right.
Okay. When you're that age. That was the same logic of, not to say that I dislike Grand Funk Railroad, but it was like Guns N' Roses came out and got popular. Dad's like, oh, you'll really love this band. Here's a cassette of fucking Grand Funk Railroad. And I was like, okay, Dad. And I listened to it, and it was good, but I'm like, it's not Guns N' Roses.
Right.
But that was a good kind of, we shared like musical things back and forth at that time.
And so you saw this kid do a drum solo, and that was kind of your moment of...
That was it. I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. And how long was it until you got your first drum or drum set?
I can't remember if it was a birthday present or I saved up money. Most of the time I saved up money. I bought that kid's drum set.
Okay, that's what I thought you had told me, yeah.
He had a...
the one that he did the solo on was...
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like a Remo... Oh my god, I don't remember the name of the style, but they were drum heads that were pre-tuned.
Wow.
So when you put them on the head, they literally just had like a lock latch, and so the compression latch just held the head in place. So the head and the rim were all one piece.
Gotcha.
So when you broke it or wore it out, you threw the whole thing out and you went and you bought another one.
Wow.
So I think I saved up money, and then maybe with help from Mom and Dad, I got the rest of it. But I only had the drum set. I didn't have any cymbals, no stands. I think I had I don't even know if I had a bass pedal. I think Kim lent me a bass pedal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like an old Slingerland or it was a Speed King. It was a Ludwig Speed King. The thing was fucking ancient, and it was not fast. But I had that, and then I didn't have cymbals, or he gave me with them old crack cymbals, just beater cymbals.
Yeah.
But I had nothing to put them on, or I had a cheap crash stand or something. But I remember I wanted hi-hats so bad that I took two of the cymbals. I think there was two 16-inch crash cymbals, and I built a hi-hat stand out of a weighted wiffle ball bat with a drumstick pushed through the narrow end so it would seat the cymbals, right? So there's no foot lever, right? It was just a stand. Mm-hmm. And then I anchored it with weights from like a home weight thing.
Right.
And so it would stand. The harder you played, you'd have to grab it and set it back. I beat the piss out of those things.
Isn't it funny how necessity breeds creation?
I mean, legit.
Yeah.
So, and if there's ever that moment where whether the parental units need convincing of something, that might have been that moment where it's like, God damn it, he built this thing.
Right, he's that devoted.
Just to have, just to figure it out. I still couldn't play drums worth a shit.
Of course. But here's a question though. So you went out and bought drums, and I remember I bought my first drum set unbeknownst to Carol, my mom, until she got home and was like, surprise. Your parents knew that was you were attempting to do. So your dad, if I understand correctly, he was cool, but your mom's never been a huge, wanting to hear the drums be a loud drum set in the house.
I think Mom...
I guess how the parents feel about it. I mean,
well, Dad loved it.
Right.
Dad loved it. I don't think Mom disliked it, although for some reason in my head I just heard her shake her head.
Right. Right, because whenever we'd set up the set at her house when we lived there, she would be like, I'm out for a little bit.
She was very polite.
Of course. Yeah.
I think part of it was maybe the music itself. I think a lot of it had to do with it was really inconvenient.
Right.
And it was extremely loud. I mean, we played in our bedroom. Yeah. There was no soundproofing. It was this tiny, 2-story house.
Right.
And so you couldn't hide from it.
Right.
You either had to sit outside. Now, if the weather was nice, it was great. We had neighbors that would sit outside when we practiced, and they loved it. Some didn't. But Mom, and we would practice for hours on a Sunday, afternoon. So it's the most inconvenient time of the day.
Right.
And God bless her, Mom would just go somewhere else.
Right.
Well,
so you
and let us take over the house.
Well, okay. So you're when you say us, I'm assuming that you're referring to your partner in crime, in musical crime anyway, James Schwallenberg.
James was part of that, absolutely.
So tell me a little bit, real quick. You got your first drum set about 12, 13, maybe 12.
Maybe a little earlier.
11, 12 we'll go with. Yeah. And then at what point were you still playing with your makeshift hi-hat stand when you started playing along with James, or?
Yeah, probably.
Right.
I feel like it was a very concurrent thing.
And you guys had known each other before that, so did you know that he was into music? Like, when did...
I think that was one of those things you like when you're in elementary school and you're like, we're gonna start a band and you're gonna be this. So you'd
always talk about it.
Yeah, there was a bunch of us that did that shit.
Yeah.
But I can remember. I remember Kinley had a Vox bass, like Paul McCartney used. Early Beatles era. You know what I'm talking about? It was a hollow body with the pickups in it. Looked like a violin, like a cello shaped. Black tobacco sunburst. You know what I'm talking about?
She had one of those? Well, it was probably Richard's, right? Or
no,
dad's,
it was
Brent's.
It was Brent's.
Brent's, yeah.
And she had it. And James and I started noodling with it. I want to say I had the drum set at this point.
You would have, because if it was right before high school.
Well, I had to have. Yes, it would have been before high school. So we must have been noodling before that. But I don't recall him having. I remember the first bass he had was a white.
And it's not Vox. That was a Hofner. That's what McCartney had. It was a Hofner bass.
Oh, Vox was an amp, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a Hofner.
Okay.
But I swear it said Vox on it.
Oh, interesting. Maybe.
I don't know.
I know that McCartney's was a Hofner, but anyway.
Yeah, but James, the first bass he had was like a pearl, mother of pearl white, like Fender Jazz bass. Right. And then he had that, and I had my Remo snap together fucking kit, and we would just beat the piss out of that stuff.
Right.
And then somewhere along the lines, later, I think we realized that we were kind of good at it. James was definitely good at it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's how that started.
So when was your first official band then?
I don't know. There was a bunch of like weird. There was like we played a church talent show with like two guys from high school.
But I mean, okay, let's not go with all the like mini, somebody was filling in.
But there's so many incarnations of that.
Well, that's true. But I mean, like your first official band, I guess was that the Far?
Nah. Well. I mean, James and I, like, when it was just he and I, we wrote songs. I don't know if we ever had a band name, to be honest. And we played with a couple different guitarists. And then that was, by the time we were in high school, we were still doing that, but then at this point we had met, like, JD and Sean and Ben and all those guys. And I got involved with Sean and JD had a band called Bluefield Sky with a couple other guys that were a little bit older than us. And they were already like a band. And so somehow either I convinced them to let me become like the percussionist.
Why? Because they already had a drummer and
yeah, Sean was a drummer.
Oh.
And so that I did that. And then they were like, a little bit I would play drums on stuff. But then let's see, because Bruce played bass and Will played the keyboards. So they were ahead of us. I think they were Ben's class. So when they graduated, we didn't have a bass player. And I was like, I know a bass player. Right. And so that brought James in. And then we all kind of played. And then we may or may not have brought in Alex, James's brother, at that. That might have happened a little later. Because he would have been, if that was junior year, he would have been in 8th grade. So he was a freshman when we were seniors. So that's when that started. And then when we graduated, Sean was going to go to Massachusetts to go to college. And we said, well, you're going to be gone. So we're just going to reform as another band. And basically, like, we're like, peace, like, kicked him out. This is what we're going to do.
Right. Well, I mean, he's leaving, so he's got to expect that.
Well, yeah, I mean, whether or not that was the appropriate way to do that.
Yeah. Well, you're 17-year-old kids.
Well, there's that too, but still.
And this happened consecutively when you were starting that sort of formation of a band in later high school. That was kind of in tandem with doing the shows with the theater as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you were leads in the theater.
Well, the first time I was.
The first time.
Yeah.
You were indulged in that. You were indulged in the music scene. So very artsy leaning side of life there, right?
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah. Well, so, you know, with the bands, so I assume once Sean left and you became the drummer and then you brought Alex in, is that about when it became the FAR?
That's what became the FAR.
That became the FAR.
Yeah.
Which, in my mind, correct me if I'm wrong, is like the first main consistent band that you kind of, obviously you and James aside.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably, I think so. That's how I'm remembering it at the moment.
I was going to say, it's your life, baby.
No, that seems right.
Yeah.
That seems right.
Okay. Now tell me a little bit about, you know, what post-high school, so, you know, you went through high school, you didn't go to college right away.
No.
You were playing in this band. You were working at Baskin-Robbins at the time?
No.
Barnes & Noble?
No, there was a weird... So Baskin-Robbins was senior year of high school. And then after I graduated, I think I quit that job. I don't remember. But then... At some point, I worked at Balsam & Duckett, where Dad worked. I worked in the warehouse for a while. And I was doing that before I went back to school. And then after maybe a year, I did end up going back. And it might have even been a year. It was at least a semester, but I want to say it was a year. I went back to school. And somewhere in that time period, then I started working. I got the job at the cafe at Barnes & Noble. And then I worked there for a while. And then after that, when I finished up school... then I was delivering auto parts. There's a stint at the video store in there, too, for a while. At college time.
So, I mean, you definitely worked a lot of odd jobs.
Yeah.
In addition to going to college, in addition to playing around, and you guys were touring to some degree.
Well, I wouldn't say we were touring, but we were in conjunction with all that, with working a legitimate full-time job, whichever one it was. All those jobs were pretty much full-time jobs. Then I was also helping out with the studio that Phil ran, working in the studio, building the studio after they bought the property. Doing live sound and audio stuff on the side with him for production things, and doing the band stuff. That was all happening concurrently.
Right.
I burned myself out really bad.
Right. So
really
from
bad.
Like 19 to 21, 22, you were in a constant state of neuroses.
No later than... I was starting to come out of it by 21.
Okay.
But yeah, 19 through like 18 and a half through 20 was pretty rough.
Right.
I mean, self-induced, I guess, in a lot of ways, but yeah, that was a interesting time.
Well, in your experience of being in sort of a working amateur band, okay. Primarily, I assume, playing around Annapolis.
Yeah, we did a couple shows in Baltimore, Pennsylvania, but that was with a later band. And at that time, I think because we were doing the production stuff with Wildcat, we did a lot of music festivals, and there's I wouldn't say it's a circuit, I'm sure there is, of like pagan based or earth centric groups that would have either different religious festivals or music festivals or both. And since we were already there was a couple that we actually went and played and got on the bill, even though we were there working too.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, so we, air quotes, we toured.
Well, yeah, but and that's why
it was like we did 2 shows.
I hear you, but that's why I kind of say you were a working amateur band where, you weren't like semi-pro, you weren't completely amateur playing in mom's garage. You were actually playing out live.
We got paid.
Right. Sometimes. Is there a particular memory in your amateur band experience that was probably your favorite?
I mean, we had a lot of fun, at the end of the day, we were having fun.
Right.
No, I mean, nothing like crazy. It was kind of cool, like the one festival we played in, it was in Kansas. And we got on the bill because we were the road crew with a couple other friends that came with us. And we played, and we got like a half-hour set or something. And we unleashed, like, we wrote like our Metropolis Part 2, right? That was our thing. We had worked on this concept song piece. It was like a 30-minute piece.
Right.
For, I don't even know how long. It was a long time. And we put a lot into it. And we played pieces of it at shows, and we practiced it all the time, but we actually got to play it. And we played the whole we opened with that.
Right.
Like, these people don't know us from Adam.
Right.
And we rolled out, some of them knew us because we'd been there a couple of years.
Yeah, but still.
But we got up on that stage and played that thing. And I don't even know. I was so, like, hyped up. I don't even know what the reaction was.
Right.
We had recorded.
Like, who the fuck are these guys?
Well, some of them knew who we were, but we had recorded it. But there was like audio stuff, and there was some stuff out of tune, which didn't help. But it was like that always stands out to me because that's like we had labored for that,
right,
to get to that point,
right.
And I just remember parts of like Damien was working the light booth because that was usually my gig. And he fogged us off that fucking stage. Like, I couldn't see James 4 feet in front of me.
Right.
But I could feel him bouncing around on the stage because my drums were moving.
Yeah.
But and I don't think people did. Yeah, I'm sure that we got, like, the pity clap.
Right.
Oh, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
It's like, we thought we were with our people. You would be on enough substances that would have been cool.
Right.
But then we laid into some Rush, and that got some applause.
There you go.
So no, that out of anything, that has always stayed with me.
Now, you started working at Macron 22, 23?
No.
Younger than that?
2001. January of 2001.
You're 22.
No, I would have been 20.
2001?
2001, I wouldn't have been...
I was 20 in 2001.
No, so June of 2001, I would have been...
21.
21.
22, actually.
22.
Yeah, you were born in 79.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were 22.
Yeah, 22.
So, as I was saying,
Sorry.
you started working at Macron.
I do math.
When you were 22.
Don't pay attention to any of my bosses.
Right? So 22, and that was...
Did the dog bring a banana down here, or did you?
I ate a banana before we started this.
Okay.
Yeah. No, the dog does not have thumbs.
Got it.
Yeah.
She could have carried it in her mouth.
That's true, although probably not as neatly.
No.
So anyway, I know that you still played, because we didn't meet until you were about 24 in 2003.
Right.
And So I assume in those 2 years you still played in a band, but from what I understand, like I guess that's when it became Five Ways to Sunday, maybe.
It had been, it was from the
Root, right?
And then From the Root became Five Ways to Sunday, and so we were still playing, but it was becoming more and more intermittent.
And why is that? Because you guys are getting older, you think?
I mean, there's something to be said for that.
Didn't you have a dream of becoming a rock star?
Of course.
But you kind of, after so many years, you're like, eh.
Well, I will never, think ill of a starving artist. But, being able to pay the bills, and I mean, I was out in a house,
right.
Right. I mean, we were renting a house that like Kelly Bell and Co. had been at, and Jimmy's Chicken Shack apparently had been there at one point.
Right.
Because it was out, kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
But, but it's like, I liked having money too. Sure. So, and we just weren't good
marketers.
We weren't good at PR.
You needed a manager.
We did.
Yeah,
we did. Like we all like James said he was going to do it, and I said I was going to do it, and I was like, we weren't going to do that shit. Well, I mean, James probably took the most realistic swing at it.
I remember, yeah. But you guys are just...
But Chris was, I think he was in DC or on his way to DC at that point.
Yeah.
And so he still came out. I mean, we still practiced, once or twice a week, but...
Yeah. You guys are still practicing when we got together.
Yeah, families and the beginnings of what became families.
Right.
And that has a hand in that. It
I know.
Always does.
And I know I've said this for 15 years, but it always kind of made me a little sad to, I always wanted to be the girlfriend of one of the guys in the band and not, 6 months after we started dating, you guys called it quits forever.
Right. Yoko.
And that was it. I know, right? Damn.
Yeah, no, it just worked out that way.
Right. So your creative endeavors, obviously you did the theater, you did the music. I know you were a visual artist is the right thing to say, right? You could draw.
Yeah.
Did you always was that just always sort of there whenever inspiration hit? Because it seemed like you focused quite a lot on theater in high school and then music later on. Was the drawing there? Or
I can remember doing artwork from a pretty young age. Bothering your ears.
It is bothering my ears a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was always there.
It was always there.
Yeah.
Did you ever have the feeling of pursuing it? Did you ever want to pursue it as anything other than just a hobby?
I don't think I ever thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
And again,
if anything, music was going to be that avenue.
Right.
I think. I mean, like I can remember Mom in her efforts to get me to go to college was like she found a school. It's in like Tennessee or something that was their thing. They were known nationally for doing like audio engineering and sound mixing and recording.
I'm surprised you didn't take her up on that. That sounds
well,
kind of
like
cool.
Everything else. It was I couldn't afford that.
Oh,
and that was my stalwart.
Yeah,
I'm not going to debt to go to school.
Right. Yeah, you only one of the few 17-year-olds to know that you don't want to go in debt to go to college.
I mean,
the rest of us just got a degree, and then we were like, oh, what the hell? That's the bill?
Yeah.
What?
Right?
Holy shit.
It's a deferred lesson.
Right.
Well, with things that I was aware of, whether or not how aware of them I really was as a kid, but, Mom and Dad went through some financial straits there when I was smaller. That could be really wrong, so Mom, Dad, you can forgive me, or correct me. And I just remember some of the repercussions of that, and some of them I didn't realize were repercussions until I was older. Like I didn't think anything about it.
You went through all that trouble your whole life to stay out of debt, and then you marry me.
You say that all the time. You gotta let that go.
But still, I
really don't care.
I know it's funny. You don't care about my debt. You cared a whole lot about your own. But you're like, but I'll pay yours. I'll be your sugar daddy.
That was your decision, right? Like I can't fault you. That was your decision.
Right.
That was your path. So be it. So
you went to college and you studied philosophy. No thought of studying art or music or any of that stuff.
No, to make everyone happy again, my grandma, offered to pay for community college. So that was the deal. So if I went back to school, she would pay for it. I said, great. I said, but I don't know what I'm going to do. And that stipulation didn't, if I recall, was never really a stipulation.
Right.
Just go.
Right.
So I said, okay, I will go. And I just did general studies. But my concentration was in philosophy because it sounded interesting.
Right.
And I'd already, with the AP credits and stuff from high school, I knocked out my entire science requirement and part of my social history or social study, whatever they call it.
Right.
Part of that. So I did a math and a couple electives like computer class and a lot of philosophy classes, English classes, that level of stuff. But I never set foot in a science department again for anything.
Right.
Which is funny considering what I do now.
Right.
And then I went on to get my associates.
And then a year or so later is when you got the job at Macron and spent the next 15 years doing...
Almost 16.
Yeah, doing land surveying.
Well, I mean, it wasn't surveying the entire time, but the bulk of it was.
Yeah, land surveying and design, engineering.
Well, I was doing helping out with design and some engineering stuff. I mean, 6-7 years into that.
I have often been said when folks ask me what I do, and then they ask what you do, I often get a opposites attract response to the idea of you being a quote engineer and me being a quote artist. But maybe it's just your design background in CAD and all that, but there is a fair amount of artsy, maybe not artsy, but especially design. I mean, it may not be the comics in the newspaper or
I mean, I think there is.
You have to
a certain degree. I joke about it at work and have for years. It's like my CAD Zen philosophy.
Right.
But I do look at it as it's not high art.
Right.
You know what I mean? By any shape of the imagination. But it is when you create a set of plans, which is the bulk of what a lot of engineering work does, and land surveying for that matter. You're making maps, you're making plats, you're making plans.
Yeah.
So you are, in a very watered down way, or oversimplified, you're communicating information visually, right? To me, that's another way of saying art. Now, there's an aesthetic that comes with that. But I apply that aesthetic to my work.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that do you find that your background as an artist in some way led you to this sort of career as a surveyor, engineer, designer? No,
no. I think it was totally.
But it has helped you.
It was dumb fucking luck.
It was dumb luck, but it has helped you with having your creative side of things. No,
I brought my creative side to it. There's a lot of people that I've worked with over the years, and in multiple capacities, that could give two shits.
Right.
Does it meet requirement X? Yes. Then it's done. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, there's merit to that.
Right.
I have maybe it's a different take, right? Or it's an additional level. I don't know. That makes it sound more substantial than it probably is. I'm also fucking picky, so.
Right.
But at the end of the
you. But actually, that makes me feel kind of good to know that you're picky because you picked me. No, keep going.
It's not about you.
Ouch.
You're interviewing me.
It's all about Steve.
It's about me.
It's about the beard. I apply that aesthetic to it because I look at it as a means of communication. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if my job is to make sure that the reviewer or the contractor or whomever can take that piece of paper and understand what we're trying to convey, then I've done my job. But then it's also a matter of, am I conveying it in a way? It doesn't have to be pleasing, per se, but I take a certain amount of aesthetic pleasure in looking at a good set of plans. Is a piece of art. I mean,
don't we have thousands of plans?
We don't have thousands, but we do. I mean, with all those old hand-drawn plats and maps and stuff, they, in my mind, that's art. They are pieces of art.
So
they're beautiful.
And people would be surprised to know, I think, how many famous people who have been surveyors. I mean,
yeah, I mean that's like trivial pop culture, but
still, I mean, no, you would know the George Washington.
I think every kid
Thomas
knows
Jefferson, right?
Like the founding fathers. That's low hanging fruit.
Oh, come on. But most people have no idea when I say land surveyor, and hardly anybody knows what the hell that is.
That's true, but they knew that Lincoln, Washington, and Jefferson fucking did it.
Right. Well, and they also think that your robot. Well, I shouldn't say but they're taking pictures, right?
Well, that's the other
that's the thing.
So
you spend now you're almost 20 years into. Obviously you've done many different things in that period. You've not just been a land surveyor. You've not just been a designer. You've been multiple things.
Right.
You kind of... You did the... You're kind of a weird artist in the sense that... And maybe it's just because I'm the opposite kind of artist, where I'm the kind of artist that's like, not logical and emotive and haphazard and whatever, whereas you're very structured and logical, and you're not going to pursue art because it's not the safe thing to do. Maybe not safe, but it's not the... You even said before, that's why you didn't, that you like to make money. You didn't want to do the starving artist.
It's not that I like to make money. It's just that money's really helpful.
It really is helpful, but I'm saying...
Yeah, I hate to say that.
No, understandable. So you kind of, took the responsible road of doing the responsible thing of creating a career for yourself. Yes, dumb luck, but nevertheless.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was never a plan.
It was never a plan, of course, but you've devoted 20 years, I mean, almost half of your entire life...
Yeah.
To this particular thing.
Yeah.
And so I just find that interesting, though, because you started with art and then went to the logic, whereas I started with not art and then I got to art.
But I brought art back to my logic.
Well, but exactly, and that's what I'm trying to get around to, because there's that pattern of being creatively stimulated throughout your life, and lately. Just by marrying another artist, for instance,
right.
And having artists, your mom and your aunts and your grandma, your nan, and then marrying another artist who has some artistic people, and then your friends.
Yeah, but we never, I would never have called us, when we first started dating, or even by the time we were married, I would have never referred to us as artists. You know what I mean? It's just funny to look back at it.
I didn't consider myself an artist until 2 years ago. So,
right. Well, I mean, yeah.
You know what I mean? I still,
and
I think some people would not consider photography an art, or writing, or exactly, or even broadcasting. I mean, communications is an art form.
It's the same. I mean, from my mind, it's the same. That same ideology where it's like, oh well, that's a blue collar job. No, it's not. That's a fucking skill. Right. It's a craft.
Right.
Well,
the labels that we put on things are...
Well, yeah, but it's the same thing, right? Like, anything can be an art.
Right.
Not art, capital A, art.
Right. Yeah.
Well, fuck it. I mean, like the guys that pick up trash can, there's an art to that.
There is an art to that. Especially the way that they can sort of, from halfway down the street, know how to get the bag into the...
that's science, babe.
That's science, right? Well, so going back real quick, you would not have considered us artists when we first started going out.
I wouldn't have thought of that. No.
But not even creatives at the very least. I mean, we had the musical thing in common. You know what I mean? Obviously, we weren't drawing together per se, and I wasn't necessarily into photography. Although, that being said, I think our first Christmas together, you bought me my first a 35 millimeter SLR camera.
Probably.
You were the one, because you have the same one. You had the same one, and you bought me one. So it's your fault. You're the one who's like...
Fine.
And that's kind of the interesting thing is I definitely would have considered you an artist. And I did consider you an artist when we first started going out, especially given the band. I had seen some of your drawings by then. You know what I mean? I knew you were kind of creatively minded, and I think your influence and your encouragement by buying me my first SLR, and then later buying me my first DSLR.
Right.
And,
right.
Having me, stay at the newspaper as long as I did. And even though that was sort of a limiting kind of artistic freedom, it was still an artistic freedom to be able to take pictures and write and do that. But
maybe creative's the better word. Like, I still wouldn't have pegged us as artists, but we were creative.
Well, we're not artists in that we don't have our studios where we have paint-covered smocks.
But that's
is that what you're thinking of
as
artists?
No.
I think that's what a lot of people think of as
I
artists.
think that's like the stereotypical
right.
grab all,
Right. So you don't... Okay, so you just think creative. That's the better word.
I don't know if that's the better word. I feel like that makes more sense to me for whatever that means. But...
So, but, okay, and so you have, I guess I was always creative, in retrospect, certain people are like, oh yeah, you were always creative. I never would have considered myself artistic or creative younger, but I guess I could see certain propensity towards that. But now, given what I've been doing for the last 6 years in photography, and then for the last, the 7 years prior to that with the writing and the photography.
Right.
And even the communications and the broadcasting and stuff. I mean, music always was, at the forefront of my mind as always. I was never as good as you are in terms of playing guitar or drums, but it was always...
Not the guitar.
Well...
I wish you'd stop weighing against that.
I'm not trying to weigh. I'm just saying that I never had the amateur touring... situation, you know what I mean? I was never in a band.
You make that sound way better than it was.
Hey man, it's still pretty freaking cool. For somebody, see, okay, it was a low-level scale for you, understandably, but then for somebody like me who never did it, it's like,
well, I mean, yeah.
Wow, it's like they played Ram's Head Live, or, like they played at O'Brien's. Well, you didn't, but...
No, we never played at O'Brien's either.
Okay. Well,
we played at Armadillos,
and you played...
49 West.
Okay.
And we played East Puerto Rican one year. And then where did we play in Baltimore? We played at... Was it Autobar? Or Cat's Eye? We played the Autobar one time. And we played a couple other places.
And that, to me, like I said, somebody like me who didn't even have a consistent band, that is, like, cool.
Yeah.
So, you've always stuck with the drums. We know that. Our basement has always had a couple of set of drums lying around. And we obviously don't play with bands anymore, but we practice on our own, just playing along to music.
Yeah.
So, that has remained consistent. One thing that didn't crop up until very recently was your drawing. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk a little bit about as we wrap up, which is, I've known you 15 and a half years now, and there were definitely, like, your little cute Post-it notes that you would leave me, and you'd have a little doodle of something, or, the Julia's mural in her old nursery, the Sgt. Pepper mural, and, various other tattoo design or other little things here and there throughout the years.
Right.
There was definitely there. And I remember always trying to encourage you to do it more because I thought, you've got amazing talent. Mm-hmm. But it's not until the last 6 months or so that you've started making it a consistent habit to draw again.
Trying to, yeah.
What was the impetus? Why did you decide that now, after all this time, that you were going to be consistent with it?
I didn't decide initially to be consistent with it. I had those couple of ideas that I made the first batch of the stickers with.
Right.
And then I was doing all that on the computer.
In CAD.
Yep. Doing it totally wrong.
Hey.
And that just kind of reopened that back up. as a thing. I mean, I'd done it a couple times. Like I did that one drawing for Julia of the Rey, Daisy Ridley as Rey from Star Wars.
Yep.
And I did another one for something else. And I did a couple work things where I like did drawing type things in CAD for projects, like off the wall things.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is fun. You know.
You started to get that itch again?
I mean, it wasn't a conscious decision. It just kind of grew that way. But then after the stickers, we got the stickers, and then I was having some of the issues with, converting and do I learn the software or not? And, but I had the gift card or something. I said, well, let me go get a sketchbook again. Because that was always what I had done.
Right.
I sketched. Pencils, pens, that stuff.
Yeah.
And at least that way... And I'd always kept a small stash of art supplies. I had good drawing pencils and some pens. And
right. Until you gave them to Julia.
Not all of them. I kept some of them in the box.
Right.
The good ones. But... Good, quote unquote. But then, I mean, when I actually started doing that, I kind of recalled that tactile. There is a different tactile sensation when you're. I assume painters have the same thing, but just to sit with the pencils and sharpening the pencils and the feel of the paper and the friction of the pencil graphite and the paper and that whole thing. I was like, oh, I remember this.
Is it kind of like riding a bike where you never forgot?
I guess.
Was it tough at first to get back into it?
No, but I don't do like high art, so.
I know. Well, you have to stop saying that because we're not. I know you're not. You know what I mean?
But there's different tools and different skill sets. I mean, it's like, playing the Ramones and playing Tchaikovsky are still making music, but they're very different ends and very different means and modes.
Understood, but we don't need to distinguish here.
No, but okay.
You know what I mean? Because we're not trying to get into mica. We're not trying to get into a gallery. We don't have to define.
I'm drawing like lowbrow like sticker designs and punny shit.
Well, what's your favorite couple so far? What have been your favorite creations the last 6 months?
I still like the dual hand Luke.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the God Potter parody is pretty. I like that.
Yeah.
And then out of my hand drawn stuff, I don't know. I like the kind of starkness of the dead Pac-Man piece, and then the Plum Bob piece, the Plum Dum. Mm-hmm. Like fine line. It almost looks like an old. It's not etching style. It's I don't even know what the right name for that would be, but it's like turn of the century era, like lithograph print style ish. That's probably wrong. But I like that style.
Right.
So those are probably my favorites.
Do you have any? I know you're not one to plan for the future, which is hilarious given your sort of anxiety about things and your logic.
Ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is frustrating because that's where my anxiety kicks in. Is planning and trying to be prepared for the worst, and you're like, ah!
But you know what? That's the weird thing of all the things like through life to date, all the big stuff I never planned for. Never had a plan. None of this was ever on my radar.
Right, but you could probably say that sometimes it would have been better to have had a plan. No,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be here now.
What do you think? What do you think that? Okay, let's throw plan out of it. But where do you see you taking your creativity? Not really sure.
No plan.
You went so far.
You should know this by now.
Well, and actually, so that's true. That's true. I should. Well, I mean, you created your own art Instagram page, so to me, that was like, oh wow,
that even in as much as to just be my own kick in the ass. Like, if I can do this, and I can at least reasonably, considerably put stuff out,
right,
then that'll keep me going. I mean, yes, is there something to the, the dopamine thrill of opening up Instagram to see how many likes you got or how many follows? Yeah, I mean, I think everybody knows how that works.
Right.
But then doing it even when I don't get the likes. Well, that's really why I'm doing it.
Right.
If people see it and they like it, well, then that's cool, because that's the point. But the real point is to be creative, is to have that aspect of my life be there.
Right.
So,
and we should probably mention that you can be found on Instagram at PNEZD. PN as in Nancy, EZ as in Zed.
Zed's dead, baby.
Zed's dead.
Zed's dead.
PNEZD as in David. And
shameless plug.
Shameless plug? No, it's not a shameless plug. That's what this is all about.
Shameless plug.
Whatevs. But we didn't even really get to talk about the creative side of the gardening and your sort of plans for how you every year survey our garden and plan it and design
That's
it.
my middle ground for the OCD planning.
Right.
That's as close as I get.
Right. So, I guess it's safe to say, I mean, in one form or another, whether you plan for it or mean for it to happen, that sort of creative streak in you just finds new avenues to explore. And
yeah, it'll show up wherever.
Right.
And in some way, shape, or form it shows up.
Well, I hope that, I'm obviously biased, but my two favorite parts of your creativity are the music side. I love listening to you play. I definitely hope you keep up with the drawing, especially, probably more so because of my own frustrations of not being able to draw so good.
Right.
So I've always been...
That's not true. You draw good. You draw a consistently awesome Taz.
That's right. That's my one
go-to. That's your go-to. One trick pony.
Right, exactly. No, but I mean, that's always been something I've wanted to be good at, but never really have been good at. So it's definitely cool to kind of, because we share just about everything. It's like your art is my art, and your creativity is, hey, Steve, I need you to draw this for me.
Right. I need you to...
Right.
What does this one look like?
Right. Well, yeah, no, I genuinely like, I mean, it's such a simple thing, but just to be able to have you draw sort of my website logo using a similar font as the Beatles, which, obviously...
I did that one on the computer, but...
Okay, but nevertheless, the fact that you could do that and create that font for me, you know what I mean, where... and then change it up just enough so that we don't have to worry about any sort of copyright situation,
I don't know about that, but...
I think it's different enough. Regardless.
Substantial.
I'm not trying to make profit.
I forget the legal term, whatever that was. Substantial something or other.
Yeah, but...
How different is it?
But I do... Those are kind of the two things that I hope... I mean, gardening as well, but that's kind of more... Not on the creative side, more of the self-sustaining ability to... reduce our grocery, I
mean, yeah, the self-reliance and
right.
better food and locally grown and all that stuff. But,
right.
I also just enjoy it.
Right.
Right. You can get into all the hippy-dippy shit, too. That's true.
It's true.
All that. Yeah.
Well, I think it's safe to say that, we may not consider ourselves artists, and although we've done many forms of creative expression, both of us, whether it's music, whether it's writing, whether it's photography, whether it's drawing,
right.
We definitely have also breeded that sort of...
Breeded?
Give me a sec to finish. Breeded that into Julia. Yeah, there you go.
I still think it's bred.
Okay,
Did we bred that into Julia? Did we breeded it?
We speak good. I am so smart.
We bred that into her.
We passed that along to our daughter.
Thank you for shifting gears.
We pass that along. Who
steer that backwards.
And she's between her Lego designs and her own drawing.
Yeah.
And those sorts of things. She's definitely got her little creativity.
She is
going.
creative in all her own ways.
Right.
For
Exactly.
sure.
Exactly. So no, it's definitely been interesting to see that the different creativity, the different creative sides come out in so many different avenues through you and through me and I don't know, you may not consider us artists, but
More so now.
Yeah.
More so now. Back then, no.
Not as much.
Not as much. We were creative.
We were creative.
Now we're artsy.
Right.
We're so quaint. Fucking hell.
Right. The artsy fartsies with fat eyelids.
Fat eyelids. Fat eyelids.
And big fat heads.
Big fat head.
All right. Well, I think we've definitely talked quite a lot about...
I'm sure people are done with us.
You think so?
I don't know.
I mean, we'll see how it goes. Sometimes...
I find us delightful.
Me too, but I'm also very narcissistic that way, so...
See, I'm not.
You don't think so? No?
Not like that. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm listening to my voice. Watching my voice on the screen. Yeah, it doesn't do anything for me.
It doesn't... What, the squigglies?
No, the narcissistic. No, watching it is
narcissistic.
fascinating.
Ah.
The narcissistic side of it. No.
Gotcha.
No, that shit makes me squeamish. It's the same reason I don't take compliments. I have to work hard to take a compliment.
Yeah. Well, you always give me grief for doing the same thing.
Well, yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
You're a parent. You know how this works. Shit. We know the game.
We know the game. Right on, dude. Well, thanks for having a conversation. Actually, and even though we've talked about a lot of these things before, I still learned a couple interesting tidbits about you. So.
I decided on the spot that I would answer honestly and sincerely.
Thanks.
No, it could have been a whole different interview. I could have made a bunch of shit up, but no, that was the whole point, was to just have the conversation, right? That's the idea.
How many times do you tell me that when we're arguing? We just need
to
have the conversation.
I just want the conversation.
Jesus. Well.
Slam, 40-year-old tantrum.
Right?
I just want a conversation.
That's all I want in this life.
I want.
Well, now that it's 10 o'clock on a work night and after...
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Friday.
It's, that's right. It's Friday Eve, although this will probably be broadcast not on a Friday Eve.
Whatever.
But whatever.
So, good whatever day it is.
Good, yes. Good day, and don't laugh at me.
This lovely March weather.
Yes, exactly. So thanks again for chatting with me, and thanks for turning me on to the creative endeavors and the...
that was already there with you.
It was already there, but you provided the...
See, I'm just going to defer, so you better stop doing that. I'm going to deflect.
Well, then you stay quiet while I sing your praises.
Because I'm going to make smart-ass comments. The more you do it, the more uncomfortable I'm going to become, and the more I'm going to make, wise-ass remarks.
Okay, well, let's just put it this way.
I'm already gearing up. Let's go. Go ahead.
I told you before that...
See, no. It's going to end badly.
All right, fine. I'm going to turn this off now.
That's better.
And I'm going to come back later, and I'm going to record me solo, and I'm going to sing Steve's praises and say how wonderful he is.
I'm going to post comments in the forum.
Nobody's going to read the comments.
Everyone reads the comments.
Nobody reads the comments. The comments are where all the trolls go, man.
Yeah.
That's true. I always read the comments.
Are we okay if the trolls read the comments?
Comment.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Is that the any press is good press? Bad press is good press?
Maybe. I mean, viral is viral, you know?
Yeah. Viral and trolls, two different things.
Well, that's true.
We should shut the fuck up.
Right. No, that's true. Well, let's end it here. I love you. You're awesome.
I love you.
And
thanks for listening, not listening.
Right. Random comment thrown your way, or I'm sorry, random compliment thrown your way. Take it.
I'll try. I won't. But I'll try.
Okay. Goodbye.
Goodbye.